My understanding, no decision as of right now has been made. And as Jane mentioned, would not be surprised if they took a couple days to take stock in what they think of Mike McCarthy and then what other options would be available. One potential other option that would be available would be Dan Quinn, who is, of course, in their own building, their defensive coordinator. Bad situation yesterday. Nobody on defense played well. Nobody called the defense well. All of that said, Dan Quinn's still a very hot head coaching candidate. He has 4 interviews lined up. He's got the Panthers and the Titans. That is going to be on Wednesday. He's got the Commanders on Thursday, and then he's got the Chargers on Friday. I also would expect the Seahawks to put in a request to speak to their former assistant, Dan Quinn, as well.
There you go. That was Ian Rappaport today talking about, hey, I know Dan Quinn's defense played like absolute cheeks yesterday, but Dan Quinn's still a hot candidate, could be the Cowboys coach, and he will interview with the Titans. And let me say this, I have an open mind. I think I've made it very clear today that Bobby Slowick is my choice. I want Bobby Slowick to be the next coach of the Titans. I want him more than Ben Johnson. I want him more than Jim Harbaugh. I want him more than Jimmy Johnson. I want him more right now than Vince Lombardi, because Vince Lombardi is dead. I mean, I want Bobby Slowick, but I do have an open mind because on occasion I have been wrong before. But, so if the Titans interview all these guys and they think Brian Callahan is the man, okay. But when I hear people talk about Mike McDonald of the Ravens, who the Titans interviewed this weekend, and Dan Quinn, who apparently the Titans are going to interview in a couple of days, I want to throw the stop sign up at third base and say, no defensive coaches. You have a second-year quarterback who might as well be a rookie, and I do not want a defensive coach in 2024 to be the coach of the Titans. I mean, I'm just going to say, I've got an open mind. But when I hear about these defensive coaches, no, I'm sorry. How many defensive coaches are still coaching? Harbaugh is a special teams coach. Kyle Shanahan is an offensive coach. Dan Campbell is an offensive coach. Now, DeMeco Ryans is a defensive coach, but again, I want to poach his offensive coach, which is going to be a problem, just like I think it's going to be a problem for Sean McDermott in Buffalo that they lose Brian Daboll, a good offensive coordinator, and now they keep recycling through dudes trying to get Josh Allen back to where he was truly elite. So, I mean, I'm just going to tell you right now, no defensive coaches. Now, I will be open to Bobby Slowick not being the Titans coach, but it better be for another guru. Like, each one of these guys has a little thing that it's like, well, you know, this isn't perfect. In Slowick's case, it's his experience. Although he's got a lot of experience, he just has one season calling the plays. And so it's like, but Matt LaFleur had 1 year calling the plays. In the case of Brian Callahan, it's that he doesn't call the plays. But Zach Taylor didn't call the plays with the Rams either. And, he's been okay. And so each one of these guys, Ben Johnson's not from the tree. He's done a good job, and they run that offense. But he never coached under McVay. He never coached under Shanahan. He never coached under Mike Shanahan. So it's like, okay, each one of these guys kind of has a blemish against him. Todd Monken doesn't run that offense, but he does have head coaching experience. He's been in the league for a while. They're lighting up the scoreboard. Great. No defensive coach. I am not interested in a defensive coach. And again, you want to talk about Dan Quinn and his defense getting lit up yesterday? I don't care about that. Because Mike McDonald, I think, has done an incredible job. I think that Ravens defense is legit. And I heard Joe talking about it today. Apparently, he's a guru. He's, a defensive guru. Don't care. No defensive coaches. This is 2024. I want the offensive guru. And so, look, interview whoever you want. I don't care. That's your time, not mine. But I was a little disappointed on Saturday when I got the email that the Titans had completed their interview with Mike McDonald, because it was right after the Texans game was over. And I'm like, did the owner miss the Bobby Slowick performance? Because I want the owner. I want Amy Adams Strunk to watch that game, and I'm sure she was a part of these interviews, so she probably did miss it. But I want Amy Adams Strunk to watch that game on Saturday, and the way Slowick threw a backup tight end a screen for a 70-yard touchdown, and I want her to say, wow, I want that. Not interview some defensive coach. No, not interested in defensive coaches because the game's not going in that direction. 615-737-1025. Our stream is back. Thank God we got a new credit card in there. So we've got that back up and running. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And Skylar texts in and says the Titans need Bobby Slowick, and that's exactly why the Titans will screw this up and probably hire the Giants offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka. Now, I've heard good things about Kafka, but that would not be an exciting hire. Not like Bobby Slowick. Now, he comes from the Andy Reid tree, which we shouldn't poo-poo because Andy's pretty good and Doug Peterson has had his moments, and it's not as home run as the Shanahan tree, but it's not terrible either. One texter says if the Titans also want Bobby Slowick but can't land him, does that tell us about Rand Carthon? Yes, it does. That would be a huge mark. Now, again, asterisk by that saying Washington has a 49ers GM now in Adam Peters, who was not interested in interviewing for this job last year, turned the Titans down, which was concerning. But I'm told that Rand Carthon is a rising superstar as far as executives in the NFL are concerned. I'm told that, as Buck reported at A to Z Sports, Rand Carthon spent a lot of last year trying to placate Mike Vrabel into making that relationship work, which is kind of believable, but it's also a convenient excuse today. But if you can't land a guy that you've worked with before, that tells me one of a couple things. If he chooses to stay in Houston as an offensive coordinator instead of coming here, like Ben Johnson choosing to stay with the Lions instead of going and taking the Carolina job last year, that is a massive red flag. Massive, given that he has a relationship, or at least has worked with Rand Carthon, and that Rand is supposed to be the relationship guy. That's why I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to get too excited. But I think they are going to hire Bobby Slowick. At first I thought Callahan, because I heard a very pro-Callahan sentiment from, I'll just say somebody that I feel like knows how Rand Carthon operates. But just given the fact that, you know, he's a 49er and they're doing things the 49er way, and they're taking from the Texans, which should not be overstated. And let's not forget, all of these guys look great, and then they lose their offensive coordinators, and very few of them stay great. Peyton Manning never lost Tom Moore until he was like a 15-year player in the league. I want to say Tom Brady had Charlie Weiss for like his first 6 years in the NFL. And at that point, it was just call up the next Bill guy and Tom knows what he's doing. But that's not the norm. The norm is what we're seeing out of Ryan Tannehill, which is he's got Arthur Smith. There's incredible synergy, and he plays great, and then all of a sudden he loses Arthur Smith, and he goes in the toilet. That's what I think may happen to Jared Goff when Ben Johnson leaves the Lions. If they can't adequately replace Ben Johnson, if they replace him with their Todd Downing, I think that could happen. So right now, C.J. Stroud's up here, and that's great. But I think that C.J. Stroud might come down a little bit if he doesn't have the great coaching. And then Will Levis has shown us encouraging signs, but certainly not perfect. And I think a guy like Slowick probably kicks him up a couple of gears. 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in. 615-737-1025 here on the program. We will get back to your phones on this. Plus, I got a little thought from each of the games of Super Wild Card Weekend, which was actually kind of fun. Like, I mean, it was, even though I wish we'd had the game Sunday, we're going to have the game today. the Buffalo game. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025 is our phone number. And again, we are presented by Jarrett Companies. That's Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game.
I say this to our fans, how much you deserve us to not have this ending. I certainly in no way have spent any of my time over the last 3 hours asking how and why. What I'm zeroed in on is the fact that I thought we were in a position, everybody in this room thought we were in a position to advance this thing in the playoffs and maybe get as far as our dreams might take us. We didn't do it. I don't have any thoughts about the reasons why or anything to do with the coaching, anything to do about the players. I want to give Green Bay a lot of compliments and credit. This is one of my most surprises since I've been involved in sport, period.
Jerry, yesterday after the game, boy, I tell you, there is nothing like watching a Cowboys game, a big Cowboys game, knowing that when they screw up, they flash up to that box and they show Jerry and he is letting it all hang out. It would make my life much easier if they would show Amy up in the box during the games when the Titans screw up, but she's not a superstar like Jerry. She's not trying to be a superstar like Jerry, so that's never going to happen. Now, I got a thought on each of the 4 super wild card games that have already been played. We got 2 today, including one that kicks off at 3:30. Now, we'll still be on the air for that, but the Predators come on at 4 o'clock, so I will be what we call dual screening it like I did on Saturday night. So I want to start at the top with the first game, right? The Cleveland versus Houston game. I thought Bobby Slowick put on an absolute show. I would rank Slowick ahead of Stroud in terms of how impressed I was. I know, because so many people were tweeting me like, well, is it really Bobby Slowick or is it C.J. Stroud? And I'm like, the guy who couldn't beat Michigan in college? Yeah. It's the guru. The Dalton Schultz play call was brilliant. The Brevin Jordan touchdown, that screen was brilliant. Now, you got to have a trigger man that can put the ball there. But I was floored by Slowick. And, again, after the first 48 minutes of this show, I'm not sure that that's much of a surprise. Number 2, going back to the trigger man. I don't think the Dolphins ever stood a chance. Ian, give me credit on my guarantee.
Got one.
Now, I am worried that my Lamar Jackson will never make the AFC Championship game guarantee is quite in doubt, especially if the Steelers win today, which I think they might.
There was another one you got on the list, too. Not NFL related.
Oh?
You guaranteed that the SEC would not win the national championship in football this year.
Thank you. Thank you. And they didn't even make the championship game. Boy, I'm on fire right now. Oh, T's and P's to Lamar then, I guess. But the Dolphins never stood a chance. Miami, and this has been well documented over history, because in that division, they go up north and they play the Patriots when it's really cold and they play the Bills when it's really cold. And Miami is never, ever, ever good on the road in December and January. But this was sub-20 degree temperatures with no Jalen Phillips, no Bradley Chubb, no Andrew Van Ginkel. They didn't have their 3 best pass rushers in that game. And again, I thought that we should use this moment to say that we now know what Tua is. And I heard them talking about it on Countdown yesterday about, oh, well, what are they going to do with Tua? Are they going to sign him to an extension? Oh, Tua's earned it. And Tua stinks, okay? Tua is good because he's got a guru coach who's getting the very, very best out of him, and he's got the best receiver in the NFL who caught a touchdown pass on Saturday by waiting for the ball like a pop fly, like a center fielder waiting for the ball to come down, and then being interfered with, catching it, and then running into the end zone for a touchdown. Other than that, Tua was truly horrendous on Saturday night. Ian, did you watch a game? Did you get a Peacock?
Yeah, I do. I actually did have the Peacock, so I was all good with that.
What'd you think of Tua?
I mean, they all looked a little bit unprepared compared to Kansas City, just the playoff and the cold, and Kansas City definitely looked like the team that had been there before.
And I give Kansas City almost no credit because I think that, again, I just think that Miami and the temperatures with Tua having to throw the ball, something's up with Travis Kelce. Now, I'm not going to be the one to say that it's Taylor Swift's fault because Travis is an adult and he can make his own decisions. But something's wrong with Travis Kelce. And you play like that against Buffalo, or you play like that against the Texans, and you will lose. I'm just going to tell you that right now. The third thing is, let's give Matt LaFleur, who I have never liked, and still, what I saw yesterday out of the Packers was probably the best thing I've seen out of Matt LaFleur ever. Like the only time where I feel like he really didn't luck into it. All the winning that they did when he first got there and Aaron's MVPs and everything else, I mean, I'm thinking that I could have done that. They got Aaron angry, and Aaron went out and won back-to-back MVPs. They made an NFC championship, or they made 2 NFC championship games. LaFleur screwed up the points by kicking a field goal in that one against Brady. And I figured I could have done all that. But the development of Jordan Love is real. Now, that being said, I put more blame on the Cowboys than I credit the Packers. It's almost like Dallas was determined to lose that game. Between McCarthy, Dak, and I'm going to throw Dan Quinn in this because Dan Quinn is starting to get a reputation as one of the biggest chokers in the NFL. Between the three of them, they could not have tried harder to lose that game. And I thought that this was a game for Dak Prescott where there is no sugarcoating it anymore. There is no more excuse making. That was his Ryan Tannehill versus the Bengals game, where he's on national TV and he cost his team the game. Not that their defense, didn't do their part, but he cost his team the game, played like crap, and there's no excuse for it. None. And I think Dak is closer to Ryan Tannehill than he is to an elite quarterback. And I don't care about his stats and the season that he had and everything else. I don't think Dak can win big games because I just don't think Dak's good enough. But, there's no way to excuse that performance from all of them. And, again, not to take anything away from the Packers, but I think Vanderbilt could have gone in there and beaten them. It was like Dallas was determined to lose that game. And then finally last night, the Sunday night game, that was just a great game. It was one of those games where it sucks that somebody had to lose. Stafford was laying it all out on the line last night. Detroit was counterpunching. It was great. Puka Nacua was amazing. Everybody but the referees were awesome yesterday. And so at the end of the game, they showed Sean McVay standing there on the sidelines, as Detroit had iced the game and they were taking knees. And I could see, I could just imagine what Sean McVay was thinking. And it was almost like I felt like if I were him, I'd be telling myself, okay, it's okay. Hey, you won your Super Bowl. You and Matthew, you've proven that this was worth it. And, I know Jared Goff and the Lions just beat you, but you made the right decision, Sean. You made that decision. You did that. Good job, Sean. It's okay. But it has to be embarrassing when you fire Jared Goff to then get beaten by Jared Goff a couple years later. And I thought that last night was a perfect example of every dog has its day, right? Stafford, all those years in Detroit, all that losing. Well, he had his day when he won the Super Bowl. Goff, very good start after that Jeff Fisher year. Very good start in L.A. Kick to the curb. They win the Super Bowl. He gets banished to Siberia. And yet, he had his day. And the Lions fans that have endured terribleness for forever, they had their day. Every dog has its day. And yesterday, I felt like it was Detroit and Jared Goff's day. And I have one other thought on this. Hey, Robbie Stanley, what you think about Jared Goff now? After 2 years ago, I said Jared Goff was better than Tannehill, and Robbie went crazy, and I love him to death, but I'm just going to say this, he can kiss my ass, because Jared Goff is in the divisional round of the playoffs, and look, I like Tannehill. I don't want to throw him under the bus in this. I already threw him under the bus comparing Dak's performance to his against Cincinnati. But he ain't doing what Jared Goff's doing. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. Ian, did you enjoy watching the Cowboys lose yesterday?
For the most part, yeah. I felt a little bit bad for Dak at times.
I felt bad for Jerry, maybe more than I felt bad for Dak, but I enjoyed the Cowboys losing too. But there is a reason why the Cowboys losing may not be a good thing around here, and why two of the games, the two that we're playing, have serious meaning as well. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company on a snowy Monday, 615-737-1025, 1025, 106 through the game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live from the Spring Hill Heating and Cooling Studios here today on the program. Kickoff in 30 minutes for Super Wild Card Weekend, Day 3, Buffalo and Pittsburgh. You know what's crazy about this is that I think there were probably a lot of people, myself included, that when they saw that there would be a kickoff at 3:30 for the game that we were all expecting to watch yesterday at noon, there was probably some groans, right? Like But now I assume that 85% of Nashville's stuck at home anyways. So it's like, great, kick the ball off and let's freaking go. And normally I don't mind the noon kickoff, but yesterday I was able to get a lot of things done around the house before the Cowboys kicked off. Now, I enjoyed watching, and Preds pregame in 1 hour before their MLK special against Vegas, the defending Cup champions. 2 good wins, by the way, for the Predators, including one that I thought was borderline miraculous the other night against the Islanders. But as much as I enjoy, I don't hate the Dallas Cowboys. I alternate between hating them and liking them, but I don't feel one way or another. I do watch almost every Cowboys game because they're all on TV. And I love, when they show the crazy Cowboy fans that are in their tears when things are going on. And I don't know, I enjoy it. But again, I'm not sitting there it's not like the Ravens or Indy that I enjoy watching, just live in total misery. But it was fun yesterday. But this might actually not be a good thing for the Titans, because I think it's probably more likely than not that Mike McCarthy's getting fired. And so that would open up another job. And that's the Cowboys. That might be the second best job that would come available, only because they don't have Justin Herbert at quarterback. It's the Dallas Cowboys. My friend's the athletic director at Louisville. When he's hiring a basketball coach a couple years ago, I said to him, this is probably one of the top 60 jobs in sports. The Louisville basketball job. Ian, would you agree with that?
Sure.
Probably top 60, something like that. Mm-hmm. And so Cowboys, that's top 2. That's right up there. That is one of the best jobs of all time. So I like Bobby Slowick. I want Bobby Slowick to be the next coach of the Titans. But if the Dallas Cowboys get in the mix and they want Bobby Slowick, well, now you got a problem. And then there are 2 games tonight that I'm also worried about. I know nobody talks about this, and I'm kind of shocked that nobody talks about this. But if you're a Titans fan, when that ball kicks off at 3:30 in 30 minutes, you need to root for the Buffalo Bills. Because if Buffalo loses in the wild card round today at home to a Steelers team that is on their 3rd quarterback, they should fire Sean McDermott. I don't know if they will. I have no inside information, but they should. And they should go get an offensive coach for Josh Allen. And again, when we're talking about where do all these jobs rank, Bobby Slowick or whomever, they could be best friends with Rand Carthon. But if it's Josh Allen or Will Levis, I'm going to take Josh Allen. And so would you. And so if they lose to Pittsburgh, I think that Buffalo job comes open, or at least it should. And so now Buffalo, Cowboys, and then there's Philadelphia tonight. And all the reporting is that if Philadelphia were to lose, that they're going to fire Nick Sirianni, which is crazy to me, because what will happen is they'll lose. National media will spend all day tomorrow talking about should Nick Sirianni be fired. Then they will fire Nick Sirianni at about 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And the national media will say, well, he had a decent run there, but, that team fell apart and there was nothing they could do. And yet all the complaining and crying that we heard about, how dare the Titans fire Mike Vrabel, a coach who has been far more successful and more accomplished than Mike Vrabel, will get the axe after one bad half of 1 year. And everybody across the country apparently will understand it. But that's still a pretty good job, right? I'm not the biggest Jalen Hurts guy in the world. I think he's kind of like Dak, which is he's good enough to be a starter in this league. I don't think he's good enough to be elite in this league. But it's definitely a better job than the Titans job. So I know, again, as much fun as it was for me to watch Dallas lose yesterday and lose in the embarrassing fashion with which they did, where Jimmy Johnson is giving that fired up speech at halftime on the Fox broadcast, there is a dangerous reality, which is if Jerry fires Mike McCarthy, which I think he should do, then now there's a job that's ahead of you in line. And I don't know how many coaches there are out there that we look at and say, gosh, I want this guy for the Titans. But to me, there's really two. And I'll throw a third in there in Brian Callahan. But for me, it's Slowick, Johnson, and Callahan. And everybody else after that, like Monken, yeah, maybe, but they haven't even reached out for an interview there. I don't want a defensive coach. And if there are so many jobs that come open and so many jobs that are better than your jobs, then guys that originally, well, maybe this team wouldn't be interested in Bobby Slowick, now they are because Bobby Slowick's all that's out there. And all these coaches are smart enough to know we're not jumping into anything like this. Let's wait. This isn't college football where it's, hey, that job goes down and we got to fire the guy in week 6 so that we can get a head start on everybody else. And by the way, A&M couldn't find a coach. It didn't take Alabama very long to do so. So all these guys are smart enough to know I want to take the best job. And right now, I don't think there's any question. Dallas is a better job. Philly is a better job. And Buffalo might be the best job on the market. If I had to go Buffalo or the Chargers, I'd go Chargers. But again, Josh Allen is more proven than Justin Herbert. So let's be careful about that. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Daniel wants to start us off this hour. Thank you for calling and waiting. What's up, Daniel?
Hey, Jared, thanks for taking my call, my friend. So I know you said, and I'm a big Jared Goff fan too, I think he's better than Ryan Tannehill, not by a lot, but by enough. When you said earlier that how is Goff looking now, and obviously he had a great game.
When I said that Robbie could kiss my ass?
Yeah, that too. Are you saying that Jared, if Jared Goff were to be with the Titans this year and Tannehill were the Lions, are you saying that the Titans would be better off right now, or are you saying like back a couple of years ago when the Titans, made it to the were the number 1 seed?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, you said Jared Goff and Ryan Tannehill. I would rather have Goff than Tannehill.
Right.
If the Titans had Goff, are they bringing Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown with them? Or are they bringing Jahmyr Gibbs? Because if Jared Goff's here in Tennessee,
well, I'll tell you, Daniel. I'll tell you when I said this. Thank you for your call. I said this. My point to Robbie and to everybody. I said it on air that Goff was better than Tannehill. Everybody got mad because everybody gets mad at everything that I said. Robbie got mad about it, and then it started like this back and forth that I haven't let go because I was right. But I said that. I didn't say that this year. I said that after the Titans were the 1 seed in 2021. This was in the offseason in between the 2021 and 2022 season when the Lions were picking second in the draft. So this was not a front-running take that I had. And again, I think for the most part, all those guys are kind of the same. Goff, Tannehill, Dak, Cousins. I think Tua is probably a little worse than all of them, but he's in that group. I mean, I think that those guys, Geno Smith, I think those guys are all kind of in the same grouping. And then there's the good quarterbacks. And we have to hope that Will Levis can be in the good quarterback group. Cam is up next here on the program. Thank you for calling on a snowy Monday. What's up, Cam?
Man, look, so I rarely disagree with you, but, just what you just said, hopefully Levis will be a quarterback. I will take Jalen Hurts over Will Levis or any schmuck that the Titans draft or hire between now and 2026. You said that Jalen isn't a franchise or like a superstar quarterback, and you are way off the mark, dude. You are so – like I said, again, I rarely disagree with you, but you are way off the mark.
Cam, who's your college team?
Yep.
Who's your college team? He dropped. Ian, who do you think his college team is?
I don't know.
Alabama.
Oh, I see where you're going there, Jalen Hurts.
Of course.
Gotcha.
That's why he dropped off when I asked him who his college team was, because he knows exactly what I was going to say. Look, Here's what's crazy about Jalen Hurts. And again, I go back to Sirianni. If they lose tonight, Sirianni's probably getting fired. And I'm not there, so I can't tell you if it's his fault or if it's AJ's fault or if it's the city of Philadelphia's fault or if it's all of their faults. I don't know. I can't tell you. What I do know is this. Nick Sirianni was hired to coach Carson Wentz. He was not hired to coach Jalen Hurts. Carson Wentz didn't want to be there. So then that first year was kind of a rebuilding year, and they had Hurts. So it was like, okay, let's see. Let's get some more draft picks. Let's kind of build around. Let's see. They make the playoffs the first year under Sirianni with Hurts as the quarterback. And reportedly, they were going after Russell Wilson. So even after they made the playoffs that first year with Jalen Hurts, they were still interested in upgrading to Russell Wilson. It ended up not working out. They ended up trading for A.J. Brown, which again, this all makes sense because the money that they gave and the picks that they would have used for Russell was probably a lot less than what they ended up getting A.J. for. So they end up getting A.J. Brown, and Jalen Hurts enters 2022 again with a let's see. And then Jalen Hurts goes crazy. And at that point, they give him the contract. They commit to him. They're in the Super Bowl. But the difference between a guy like that or a guy like Matt Ryan's 2016 season or a guy like Carson Wentz in 2017 is that the truly elite guys do it every year. Brady did it every year. Manning did it every year. Mahomes does it every freaking year. Every year come MVP time. There's the three guys that are always there, and then there's one guy that's kind of new to the mix. And he might be there one time and you never see him again, or he might be there every year. Jalen is not that guy. And again, if Jalen was better, when they have injuries, which they've had this year to Dallas Goedert, now he's back, A.J. Brown's out, Jalen's supposed to be the one to step up to replace those guys. The defense isn't very good. If you're, again, an elite franchise quarterback, you put the team on your back even when the defense isn't good. Jalen's not doing that. Joe Burrow got to the Super Bowl with no offensive line in front of him. That's a franchise quarterback. But I know, roll tide. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to weigh in, 615-737-1025. And I will say this. I thought Rand had one really, really good answer in his press conference last week that otherwise was a truly unmitigated disaster. But I do think there is something to the gurus and to your quarterback. And we'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025. White Bison. Woo, it is so cold outside, and that's why you need to hit up White Bison, your local coffee shop. You know, for me, even in these conditions, a walk to 12 South wouldn't be that crazy, and they got a White Bison and a Twice Daily right there. And so right now you can stay warm and cozy with their honey-based drinks like the cinnamon beehive latte, an iced honey nut macchiato, and a vanilla rooibos tea latte. That's right. White Bison is your local coffee shop with food featuring fresh-made premium breakfast, lunch, and snack options, especially if you are somebody that lives near a White Bison and it's like, we need to load up because we may not be leaving the house much this week. White Bison's where you want to be. Download their app and order ahead. When you download the Twice Daily and White Bison app and enroll in the rewards program, you can place orders on the go anytime and automatically earn on every purchase. Download the app to order ahead, earn rewards, and get one free coffee every time you buy 7. Part of White Bison's rewards. Buy 7, get 1 free. White Bison and Twice Daily, fresh all day.
to make sure that you are getting a coach that is going to be able to work with what seems to be the future of your franchise and quarterback, Will Levis, to make sure that that is right more than anything, if this is the guy you're moving forward with as your quarterback?
So, I think all positions are important, and I get the nature of the quarterback position and what it means to not only our franchise but to the league as well. I share with you guys, before Levis's first start, and that became like a mantra, for me to tell him. I told him you don't have to be number one, you just have to be number one of 11. And so we're not going to make our whole search about Will Levis. We have other guys on this team that are going to require coaching. They're going to require development. But we will bring someone in here that's, sees it the same way and is more than willing to work with him.
That was Rand Carthon. I thought that was one of the best answers, if not the best answer that he had over that otherwise pretty disastrous press conference last week. And everybody wants to know, Levis. Amy even talked about Levis last week. Again, she didn't say him by name, but alluded to him in her sit down with Mike Keith, which I didn't necessarily like because I don't like the idea of singling out one player when they really haven't earned it, which Levis has not earned. But we played the cut from Bill Polian. He's not sold on Levis. I heard that Randy Mueller said that he's not sold on Levis and so on and so forth. But it's not about, when it comes to thinking about the next coach, it's not about what Levis is today, but it is about what Levis can be. It is about, coaching is about maximizing potential. And last night, when I watched Matthew Stafford play, and I'm going to have to give Mel Kiper Jr. some credit here, because everybody here, specifically the UT fans, but I think there were some non-UT fans too, that poo-pooed on Mel Kiper Jr. for how much he liked Will Levis. But a name he kept using to compare Will Levis to was Matthew Stafford. And I'm like, Matthew Stafford was the number one pick in the draft. Like the unquestioned number one pick in the draft. Now, I knew Levis had a rocket launcher, and I knew that, Levis was big like Stafford. But other than that, Matthew Stafford, I'm not the biggest Matthew Stafford fan in the world, but Matthew Stafford is a true, high middle quarterback. I wouldn't put him in the category with the Mahomeses of the world, but I certainly would put him ahead of guys like Dak Prescott or Ryan Tannehill or whomever. Jimmy G, Kirk Cousins, Tua, those guys. You can win a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford, as we know. I actually thought last night was one of the best games I've ever seen Matthew Stafford play. Now, I know he's had some games where he's thrown for 500 yards and things like that, but where he was putting the football, the zip he was putting on the ball, the touch that he would alternate putting on the ball, it was like he was just hand-delivering the ball right into the hands of these wide receivers. The touchdown pass to Tutu Atwell was beautiful last night. And that takes me to Levis. There were a couple throws last night that Stafford made that, again, back to Mel Kiper Jr., kind of had some Levis in them. Like, I've seen throws Levis has made that he, takes a weird angle to, or he pops the ball with just the perfect amount of touch, just puts the ball right where it needs to be, or a zip that he throws. And I go back to the Steeler game, and there was a ball right at the end of the first half on the sideline that he put out there for Nick Westbrook-Akine that he made look so easy, that was such a difficult throw to make. And I saw Stafford throw one like that last night. Levis throwing the ball to Kyle Phillips in that Steeler game. There were some that I'm like, wow. And again, it's like, it's not truly possible to teach guys to do this. But again, that low arm angle, I got to change my angle to get it through the window. I got to zip it in there on this throw. I got to put touch on it on that throw. And Stafford has it, and Levis has shown it. Well, we've seen what Matthew Stafford looks like when he's got a guru coach in Sean McVay. Stafford did not lose them that game yesterday. And I thought what's crazy is they lost the game, and boy, Stafford was beaten. But I thought Stafford was the best player on the field last night. I thought Stafford and Puka Nacua were the two best players in that game, and their team still lost, which is why football is a team game. But I see what Mel Kiper Jr. was talking about with Levis and Stafford. And so when I think of Levis, and I, again, appreciate Rand not coming out and saying, hey, our entire coaching search will be dictated around who's going to be the best for Will Levis, because I don't think Will Levis has earned that. And there may be some coaches that are great coaches that don't want to work with Will Levis. The entire league passed on him. But I just think about putting one of these gurus with Levis, with that natural ability, and seeing what that can turn him into. And I don't think it's an accident that Will Levis's best season in college came under Liam Cohen, who is a guru from the tree. I mean, Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator at Kentucky, is interviewing for the offensive coordinator job with the Chicago Bears, where they're probably going to be coaching Caleb Williams. And if Cohen had stayed with the Rams, where he was the OC last year before going back to Kentucky, if he had stayed with the Rams and they had had the season that they had this year, I think he would absolutely be in the mix, if not the favorite, to be the Titans head coach. Now, Rich Scangarello, when I talk about the gurus and the tree and everything else, Rich Scangarello, the offensive coordinator, formerly of the Broncos and of Kentucky, he is the one guy off the Shanahan tree who is absolute garbage. He was terrible at Kentucky. He was the quarterback's coach in San Francisco. And I actually thought he would be a guy that the Titans would have been interested in when Matt LaFleur left to take the head coaching job in Green Bay. Because I figured they wanted to stay with the Shanahan-McVay system, and so they'd go get a guy, and the way to do that is to take somebody's quarterback coach. And at the time, he was the quarterback coach under Kyle Shanahan. And so I figured that would be the guy. Well, the Broncos took him. Now, remember, at that time, John Elway was still involved with the Broncos. John Elway, Shanahan, all of that. They fired him after 1 year. They brought in Scangarello. I think Vic Fangio was the head coach. They brought in Scangarello, and they fired him after 1 year. Then, Liam Cohen leaves Kentucky, goes back to the Rams. They need a guru. How many of these gurus are going to be willing to leave the NFL to go to college? Not many. So they hire Rich Scangarello. And he was terrible. So he's the one guy who was terrible. But other than that, when Levis had the guru in Liam Cohen, he was great at Kentucky. Just saw so much of Stafford last night that I thought, wow, those plays, Levis can do that. And you guys know me. I'm not one of you guys that's ready to call Levis a franchise quarterback because I don't think Levis has earned that. But some of those throws that he's made throughout the course of the year, they take a special quarterback to be able to do that. So he can do it. Now the question is, how do you maximize that potential? And I think it's with a guru. And so, again, when it comes to this hiring cycle, there's Bobby Slowick, who's a guru. There's Ben Johnson, who's apparently a guru. I mean, I would be looking guru. I really would be. Because I think there's a chance it could be pretty special with Will Levis. 615-737-1025. And the other guy, by the way, that I think kind of fits that Shanahan guru mentality is Spears. Because I don't think Spears would be good enough to be an every down back in the NFL. Like, I don't think his body's built that way. I don't think his running style is made to be run on every play. Just like I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is. But I think in the guru Shanahan style, they'd put Spears on the field every play. They'd find a way to make Spears available all the time. And so, again, that's why I hear this idea that they may be interviewing Dan Quinn. I'm like, no defensive coaches. No Mike McDonald. No Dan Quinn. No Bill Belichick. No, I don't want a defensive coach. 615-737-1025 will hit your phones. Plus, I was asked a very fascinating question about the Titans yesterday. Kind of where they sit with the rest of the league. We'll get to that coming up. Stillman and Company here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Boy, I could tell you winter is coming, but it's here. And I hope that your windows are handling the extreme cold that not only we're going through now, but we're about to go through. And if they're not, you need to talk to my friends at Window Nation right now. Go to windownation.com. Put your hand. I've actually been doing this. I talk to the people from Window Nation because they're great. They're experts. Again, we're talking about gurus on the offensive side of the football. They are window gurus. And I talked to them last week, and I was like, how do I know if my windows are an issue? And they were like, okay, when it's really cold, put your hand up to the window And if you feel like it's not keeping that cold air out and the draft is coming in, you need to replace your windows. Now, I've been putting my hand on all the windows in my home, and we'll see. Now, I may have to go to windownation.com too. But I am telling you right now, if you've got bad windows, that is going to jack up your energy costs, especially this week while you're stuck at home. Let Window Nation help you out here. Replacing those old windows is easier and more affordable than you think because they've got no interest for 5 years and 50% off all window styles. Do not wait. Again, that's no interest for 5 years and 50% off all window styles. So if you realize this week when you're stuck in your house, you realize it's so cold and you realize your windows aren't getting the job done, you need to call Window Nation. 866-90-NATION. They're online at windownation.com.
She did the right thing in terms of not trying to trade him. I'm not sure she did the right thing thinking she can replace him, especially when you go through their drafts and you look at all the failed first round picks. And look, Mike wanted Ryan Calling. What Adam said, I've heard the same thing. I think it's completely accurate. And they decided to hire Rand, and Rand comes from a different program, a different set of circumstances, and he wants to run his team. The press release that she issued that said that she thinks she has a bright young quarterback, for me, would be alarming because I'm not sure I'm there on Will Levis yet. I don't see that. I haven't seen that in his play as of yet.
There you go. That was Lombardi, and he's right. Now, I'll say this. Let's see what Bobby Slowick or Ben Johnson or one of the gurus does with Will Levis, and then let's see if we feel that way or not. That's all I'll say. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025 here on our program. A texter texts in and says, this is Joey in Bellevue. Good to know that Joey is listening. I'm sure Joey is working, even though we've got the terrible weather out here. Joey says, are you worried that the Titans will eventually have to settle for a coach that wasn't their first or second choice with all the teams needing coaches? It would suck if they hire their fourth or fifth option because more than likely they would have to fire that coach if he wasn't very good. I am worried about that. And I am worried about that because I already know the Titans don't have the best job, right? Like I would say the Chargers are the best job. You live in L.A., which is nice in and of itself. You don't have days like today in Los Angeles. But the fans there aren't ruthless and reckless and make your life miserable like the Northeast or Philadelphia or Chicago or anywhere like that. Those fans just simply aren't as passionate. Miami's great. So is Miami and L.A., if you're not looking for attention, Miami and L.A. are great. Now, if you win a lot, you're going to get attention no matter what. But if you're not looking for it and you just want to live your life and you know, hey, if we go 10-7, get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, I don't want to hear too many complaints. L.A.'s great. And they've got a quarterback. And they've got a high-end pass rusher. And they've got receivers. And they've got a left tackle. That is the best job. Well, if Buffalo loses, and they're kicking the ball off right now, if Buffalo loses, that is probably 1A when it comes to best jobs out there. So now go ahead and kick somebody else on down. And none of these places have coaches that I'm like, okay, well, if they fire Nick Sirianni, I'll hire Nick Sirianni. I don't want Sirianni. I don't want Mike McCarthy. I don't want Sean McDermott. So I am absolutely worried about the idea that it could kick them down to where, again, as I said, Arthur Smith is my safety choice. That is, if nobody I want wants me, I'll go in the direction of Arthur Smith. But I don't want to. I want the guru. I want Bobby Slowick. And if all these jobs come open, Bobby Slowick probably is going to get offered one of those really good ones. Texter says, I know they have huge egos, but does Vrabel go to Dallas and take Derrick Henry with him? I could see Vrabel in Dallas. And Vrabel in Dallas would be, I think, outstanding. Because either he's going to win and we're all going to look like idiots, or he's going to do the same thing he did here, and they are going to kick his butt so hard because everybody will be paying attention to everything that he says and everything that he does, and they'll all go crazy, and it'll be a big, I told you. With Craig Aukerman, they're going to fire Bones Fossil, the best special teams coach in the NFL, so that he can bring Craig Aukerman in there. This isn't like a, guarantee, but this is like, I guarantee you Vrabel will do something stupid like that. Let's go to John in Nashville, who's up next today on this snowy Monday. Thank you for calling. What's up, John?
My man, what's going on as always? Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Not to go too far left, man. So Brave wanted, like that median, that intercessor between Rand and he. Now that he's gone, right, like which candidate would either negate the need for that intercessor or be okay with bringing in said intercessor? And
well, that's not going to happen. Rand Carthon's going to be the general manager of the Titans. So, here's what I would say. Years and years and years and years ago, I was looking for this. I think this was maybe when they switched the quarterbacks, and I went back and I listened to the old Jared and the GM podcast because I wanted to go back to when Mariota got switched out for Tannehill, and I knew what day that was. And so I went back and I listened to the old Jared and the GM podcast. I went on a walk across the neighborhood just listening to the old stuff. And, one of the things that Mike Vrabel was tasked with when he took the job, because apparently people thought that Terry Rubisky and Mike Mularkey weren't doing a good enough job of this, was to maximize Marcus Mariota. And so in 2018, he was hired to maximize Mariota. And in the middle of 2019, he was kicking Mariota to the curb. And I was like, well, he should be sticking with Mariota because he said to everybody that he was going to get the best out of Mariota when he got the job. And the GM laughed. And the GM said, he doesn't care about that. He'll say whatever it takes to get the job because it's one of 32 and it pays $6 million a year. That's like these people that are like, oh, would Bobby Slowick, if he got offered the Titans job, why would he want it? Because now it pays like $10 million a year. And your head coach, it's one of 32, and all these guys think, I can do it, I can win. And so, to your point about like Rand Carthon, these coaches coming in here, if Vrabel didn't like Rand, what these guys like Rand, they'll tell Amy and Rand whatever it is they want to hear. They will say, absolutely, I can work with Rand. Rand would be a great guy to work with. I love working with Rand. Go Rand. Go Titans. Whatever they want to hear. Vrabel already had that job. And so when they said, hey, Rand's going to be in here, he was like, ah. But if you don't have that job, you don't care. And I will tell you this. I'm not speaking for anybody as far as, any individual saying this. The vibe that I get from the Titans, and this could be one of two things. It could be just a total, this is going to be our official thesis statement going forward, and this is what we're going to tell everybody. We don't really believe it, but this is what people need to hear, so we're going to say it. Or this could be really what they think, and they could be wrong. Or they could be right. But I think their line of thinking is that Rand Carthon was really thrown under the bus by Mike Vrabel. And that Rand Carthon did everything that he could in order to make that relationship between he and Mike Vrabel work and to get Mike Vrabel to respect him. Now, I don't know what Rand Carthon did that would be the definition of placating, like Buck Rising wrote at A to Z Sports, saying that Rand placated to Vrabel. I don't think that's the way to earn Vrabel's respect. I think the way to earn Mike Vrabel's respect is to push back on him, quite frankly. I think if you just, if you lay down for Vrabel, he'll walk all over you. I think you really got to push Vrabel. And then I think Vrabel will have respect. But, I get the sense that the Titans believe that Rand is so popular in NFL circles with coaches, with guys he's worked with, that these guys would do whatever it takes to coach for Rand Carthon and coach with Rand Carthon. Now, I don't know if any of that is true or not. Just full disclosure, I have no idea. But that's what I think they think. So I don't worry too much about this other than if you guys are wrong, you're going to be in some deep trouble trying to fill that stadium. You're going to be looking for a quarterback. You're going to be firing a GM. You're going to have to pay off a coach for another 6 years or whatever it is in order to get Bobby Slowick or Ben Johnson or one of these gurus and everything else. And, it's going to be tough. But, hey, that's your business, not mine. One texter says, what do you think about the report of Caleb Williams not wanting to declare for the draft if the Bears have the first pick? I think I remember him saying the same about the Cardinals earlier. So Caleb Williams declared for the draft today. I'd much rather be the Washington Commanders and have the number 2 pick in this draft than be the Chicago Bears and have the number 1 pick. Because I don't like Caleb Williams. I don't think Caleb Williams has the personality to be a great quarterback in the NFL. You got Dad going off the GQ or whatever it was and saying, we want equity in whatever team we go to. Shut up. Joe Burrow is not getting equity in his team. Patrick Mahomes is not getting equity in his team. And you think you deserve equity in your team? And that's the kind of thing that even though his dad said it, not him, that can turn people off. And then just the way the whole year with the spotlight on him, the way that all transpired, he didn't have a good season. And it's I don't want any part of Caleb Williams. But if my team had the number 1 pick in the draft, I think that I would be compelled to draft Williams over Drake May or Jaden Daniels. Just because he's so much higher of a prospect. But I don't like the personality. Now, he did declare today, and the Bears are going to draft him. But I also think if you're the Bears, I think they're stupid for keeping Matt Eberflus because he's a defensive coach, and he's not even a good defensive coach. Do not make the same mistake. Do not try to make it work with a defensive coach when you're trying to develop a young quarterback. And that's why I've said guru, 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 guru. I don't even like Matt LaFleur. I think he's a dope. And yet, he's developed the quarterback in Green Bay. And now he'll be the coach for the next 10 years, unless this is just an aberration. But it looks like Jordan Love went from allergic to the football field 2 years ago to legitimate NFL starter. Guru. Offensive coach for Caleb Williams. 615-737-1025. Predators game day is next. Here on Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025. Let's do a little check, though. See what's going on at Super Wildcard Weekend, where right now, in the first quarter, no score. Bills are at midfield. Stillman and Company. Let's talk about Twice Daily. That's right. I love Twice Daily. Twice Daily is trying to send you to Italy. And if you're somebody like me and you live within walking distance to a Twice Daily, which I do, Twice Daily might be huge for you this week as you load up on all the stuff they've got. Buy any made-to-order Italian sub and use your rewards app and get entered to win. And every sub is a chance to win. Mobile-ordered Italian subs count 2 times as entries, and visit twicedaily.com/sweepstakes for more info. So again, if you're like me and you live walking distance or short driving distance given the weather to a Twice Daily, they've got made-to-order sandwiches just the way you like it. That's right. You can get exactly what you want when you want it. So customize sandwiches with your preferred meats and cheeses and get bagels with all the fixings and get the snacks prepared the second you order. And you make it yours and they will make it fresh. And that's hard to come by given the current state of affairs outside right now. That's Twice Daily. That's right. Download the Twice Daily app and join their loyalty program to unlock special discounts, savings, and so much more. It pays to be a member with Twice Daily. We'll earn points and save money with every visit. If you're looking for convenience, Twice Daily has you covered. Twice Daily, fresh all day. Predators Game Day is presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty, online at tjandersonhomes.com. TJ Anderson, list your home and get it seen, heard, and sold. That's right. The Predators today with an MLK special against the Vegas Golden Knights tonight at 5 o'clock. Max will have the pregame coming up at the top of the hour. Vegas 24-14-5, good for 53 points. The Predators 24-18-1, good for 49 points. That is the gap. Again, a 4-point difference. That is the gap between you and the defending Stanley Cup champions. And the Predators with a very impressive win Friday night at Dallas, and then followed that up with a miraculous last-second, really, victory in regulation against the Islanders on Saturday night. A little knuckle puck from Alexander Carrier into the back of the net. Somebody texted me after the game, Ian, or tweeted me and was like, "Where do you Carrier now?"
Yep.
I was like, that was pure and total luck. But I'll take it. I will take it. Taking a look at the standings for the Predators, they are in the first wildcard spot, although Edmonton is nipping at their heels and has 4 games in hand, so my guess is Edmonton's probably going to jump them. And then Seattle, 2 points behind, and Calgary, 4 points behind, so points tonight could be massive for the Predators going up against a Vegas team that is not as good on paper as everybody thought. Here's what Here's what Andrew Burnett, Predators head coach, had to say about playing Vegas.
I mean, they're puck hounds. They strip you. They never give up on pucks. They got great back pressure. I mean, they know how to win, and they got size in the back end that eat up space. And so it's going to be a test. It'll be another one of those battles that we got to get to our game early and hopefully have fun with it.
So I actually think this is a pretty big game, and I'm going to tell you why. Because with the Predators, a one-off where they win against a good team, that's not something that's new. Like, we've seen that before. But this isn't a one-off. They've won 2 in a row. They flew, out to Vegas yesterday, and they're going against them today, special start time, and Vegas is good. And it's like, this is kind of a measuring stick game of when everybody's on an even playing field, and it's not something special for you, and it's not something special for them, and you're playing a legit contender, and it's not a game where you've lost 3 in a row, where they go into it thinking, oh my God, we absolutely positively have to win this game no matter what. I mean, when that happens, it gives me the idea that, well, if they win this one, then maybe the Predators are in decent shape as far as contending in the playoffs. And all I want this year, one interesting playoff round. And maybe they're not that far away from it. And they certainly didn't look like they were that far away from it when they played this weekend against the Dallas team that is going to make the playoffs. And they hung in tough, and they beat that Dallas team. And I mean, it was a punch-for-punch kind of game. So we shall see. Max Hers has the pregame show coming up next here on our program. Little short MLK day for us. We are back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Everybody stay safe. Stillman and Company brought to you by Jarrett Company's Fire and Commercial Plumbing HVAC Division, 615-515-1270, JarrettCompaniesInc.com. Everybody stay safe on the roads over the next couple of days. This is the one time a year where it snows for us. It'll be okay. We'll all be okay. Everybody stay safe. Don't go out unless you have to. Stillman and Company, pregame's next. We'll see you all tomorrow, too.